Question: Did you see it during the game?
No, it was they posted. I don't think they posted during the game.
Well, they said he paid $7 million for it. So but I didn't see it. I don't think I missed any commercials, but I did not see the Kanye West commercial until
Neither did I.
It was on X
I
today.
saw the clip that was supposed to be the commercial, but I don't recall watching it. I watched pretty much the whole game.
Yeah, that's kind of the exact boats I had. Did you have any other thoughts on the halftime or the commercials?
Dude, this halftime. So I'm 36 years old.
Banger.
Like people, this is what it comes down to. Maybe this is hot takey, maybe this is not. If you didn't like the Usher halftime performance, one of two things is this is you. One of two things: either you're too young, or you're a dork. Who hasn't freaking gotten freak nasty, talking nice and slow? Usher, I know that's like I've done slow dances. Also, too, this is the other part of the halftime show that I will push back on. People talking shit about the rollerblading part of it. Brother, I'm 36. We used to go to the roller rink every Friday night. That's the first time I held girls' hands, kissed them, sang to them, do the lover boy shit, the certified lover boy shit that Drake sings about. This is where you learn this stuff at the roller rink. So when he busted that out too, I was like, hell yeah. Also, people, youngins, listen up nice and good. All you young folk out there, listen. You don't understand how hard it is to stay upright and get your groove on. Because you ain't rollerblading. You ain't roller skating. You don't know. You think it's easy. You think it's sweet out here. Shit ain't sweet. It's hard. And he's doing dancing. Dude, you ain't never tried to woo a chick on four wheels like that and think that that's easy peasy lemon squeezy, because it's not.
You'd be on your butt cheeks real quick. I didn't go as much as you did, but I grew up with one down the street, and it burnt down like 2 years ago. So the roller rink no longer exists, but that's where we had a couple of birthday parties and things like that. But
birthday parties,
that was an all timer. I think Ray G tweeted it. He was like, he's like, what's the best part of this game or something? I said, who's the MVP? And I was like, dude, it's Usher. Usher's the MVP. I mean, we're mid-third quarter. Usher's the MVP, and second in line is like Chris Conley. And then it's like maybe Juwan Jennings. That was the MVP race mid-third quarter. But enough Super Bowl talk, brother, because we got all soft season to talk about those things in the next year. I want to talk about this 2024 NFL draft quarterback class.
It's a big position this year. Roll that intro, baby.
Welcome back to the Hurdle, episode 49. I am Cody Carpentier with my main man, Matty Kiwoom. You can find him on X at Matty Kiwoom. Hey, it's officially, I mean, it's been draft season for a few weeks. It's officially draft season because the NFL season is over, and we're here today to talk to you about the 2024 NFL draft class, namely the quarterbacks. That's all we're going to talk about today. Today's going to be the quarterback class, quarterback show. Next week, we'll do probably receivers. Following week, maybe we'll do running backs. And we'll focus strictly on these positions with our favorite landing spots and our worst landing spots for fantasy football is what they're going to be focused on. We're going to pick a quarterback. We're both going to talk about our favorite and our least favorite landing spot that will give us fantasy output or won't give us fantasy output, or we'll just nuke maybe their career. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to go through 7 quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels from LSU, Drake Maye from North Carolina, J.J. McCarthy, Michigan, Bo Nix, Oregon, Michael Penix, Washington, Spencer Rattler, South Carolina.
The rattlesnake.
And then this other guy named Caleb Williams that is getting a lot of press every single day for a multitude of reasons. But, Matty Kiwoom, how the hell's your Tuesday, brother?
Tuesday's a bit of a wild one. Snow day for the fam. Had a few inches of snow. Snow day. So winter warnings, all the schools closed. My wife was home. The kids were home last night. We knew it last night. We wake up this morning. There ain't a sprinkle on the ground. And we're like, oh, we got a false alarm. Nope. By the time we had breakfast, got the girls up and at them, it was a full-on blizzard. Went till about 5 o'clock. Had a few inches. That heart attack snow, though, the watery type snow, a lot of fun. Me and the girls went out, made a snowman, made a little horse. But, it wasn't fun. About a couple hours ago, and I had to go outside and shovel for over an hour. That wasn't fun. But like as I was telling the girls, that fun day that we had? Well, the check just came. Dad's got to go pay it.
It is what it is. That's big. Storm. Oh, I forget about it, man. It's in February. Like in Minnesota, I wouldn't forget about it. I was living in North Dakota, whatever. But now I'm in Virginia, and it was like, I think it was 47 today. And to be honest with you, I was just waiting for it to get to 50. We had like 17-mile-an-hour winds. Went out for a little jog, and I wasn't even thinking about snow. I had a couple branches. I had this big ass tree in my backyard, just dumps branches whenever it gets windy. So I had some branches fall. But honestly, my recollection of like my maybe my circadian rhythm or whatever it is doesn't even think about snow right now.
It's out your zeitgeist. It's out of your bandwidth completely.
Not even in the process of thoughts. But let's jump into these damn quarterbacks.
Let's do it.
First and foremost, let's start with, we're going to go in chronological order. So first and foremost, it's Jaden Daniels, quarterback from LSU, Heisman winner of 2023, guy that transferred from Arizona State. Hyper producer in the rushing game, but also in the passing game, playing with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. Currently, his ADP is sitting around that 3 overall spot in the NFL draft. Lance Zierlein has mocked him ahead of Drake Maye this last week. Give us your best landing spot possible for Jaden Daniels to produce the most fantasy points.
So what happened going into this is how I just want to give everyone listening my thought process, a little bit of behind the scenes. So I went with semi-realistic, but also kind of chaotic. So it's not what I think is going to happen, but if it were to happen, because the ranges do work out, it would be his best. I think his best landing spot is actually the Chicago Bears. They already have an offense built for a guy who can run. They've shown that they can be the worst team in the league and their quarterback be a top 5 fantasy producer. They have a new offensive coordinator that, well, depends if you take a whole lot of what JSN into account. It's supposed to be an upgrade at the offensive coordinator position. So I do think that Jaden Daniels is one of those guys that he can win without a ton because of the legs. And we love that for fantasy. Konami code through and through, 1,200 rushing yards at LSU. So Jaden Daniels, for me, I think the best spot for him is pair him up with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and what they got going on in Chicago.
I don't mind that. I didn't think about it because I didn't expect to kind of really think about Jaden Daniels going 1 overall. But I do think that's interesting.
9, though.
If they went opposite, if they traded out and he did fall to 9, or maybe they traded back to whatever 3 or 5 or something, and then they end up going there. That's something that we really haven't even thought about right now. And Daniels with DJ Moore, he's got a tight end there. He's got a little running game. Maybe they add another receiver later. Brian Thomas potentially, if they move up, they could hypothetically, if they did trade back from 1. Let's see, what's their second round pick? Do they have one at they traded
it, yeah.
Washington. So hypothetically, if you traded back from 1 to 3, you probably get New England's 34th overall pick. You could take that 34th overall pick. You could go up. I don't love Brian Thomas. Again, I'll talk about this later, but you could hypothetically take the 34 and move up into the late 20s, and then you get Jaden Daniels. You could get an offensive lineman at 9, and you could get Brian Thomas at the end of the first. That would be a ridiculous draft for the Chicago Bears. My favorite landing spot for Jaden Daniels is the only one that I have a tie on. I would be down for any of these 3. I put Minnesota, I put Atlanta, and I put Vegas. Vegas is just narrowly in there. I have questions about Vegas and how it's built and the projected talent that is in Vegas over the course of the next 10 years with Devontae Adams aging out, and they're really not being a true – I love Jacoby Myers, but they're really not being a true one there. He does have a nice security blanket in Michael Mayer. Who knows if they bring Josh Jacobs back. I like Vegas, but I think I love Minnesota and Atlanta. You can have whichever one you want. Of course, you get Addison, Jefferson in Minnesota. In Atlanta, though, you get the boatload of talent. You get a team that wants to be there. And you're inside. You're in the dome in both situations for at least 9 games a year. At least 10 games a year because they both play. New Orleans gets Atlanta. Sorry, Atlanta gets New Orleans and Minnesota gets Detroit. So it's at least 10 games a year indoors.
Oh, yeah.
I feel good about that. I think Jaden Daniels in Atlanta or Minnesota is a slam dunk. Atlanta's picking 8. Minnesota's 11. We heard Minnesota talking about trading up last year for Anthony Richardson. So I don't think you can go wrong. Matty, do you, yeah, I'm just going to answer. You have none. This is the only one you have none for.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's no bad landing spot for Jaden Daniels?
Similar to why he's the only person on your list that you pick 3 spots.
Yeah.
What he brings to the table kind of blankets a number of spots. I think that of the top guys, the only quarterback whose draft would not sink significantly to me going to the Patriots is Jaden Daniels. He's the only one. And what you're going to see here is, Minnesota and Atlanta is a through line. I think that we all believe a multitude of quarterbacks could go there, and we're going to talk about that. But the same type of common thread you'll see through the worst landing spots is going to be a lot of New England, a lot of Giants. Because those are just really, in my opinion, bad landing spots. We'll get into why. But the reason why Jaden Daniels, to me, is a none is we saw Justin Fields be a mega producer in fantasy with no real weapons, no team around him. The team stunk, ended up being the first overall pick. And I think Jaden Daniels brings that type of Konami code rushing floor that even in New England, even in New York, the landing spot would not be catastrophic to his draft stock.
Can't go wrong. I put Washington here. I don't love what Washington looks like right now. They have McLaurin. They have Jahan Dotson. They brought in an entirely new staff. I'm not sure what the direction is at the current state. If I'm Washington, honestly, I try and sign a free agent quarterback. That's my MO. Someone that can take this franchise, has been to other franchises, and can instill a culture in it instead of saying, "Oh, let's put a McCarthy in here, let's put a Caleb Williams in here, and just let them bring this college vibe that they have to instill that." Like, I don't want that. That's just my personal thoughts. So I think Washington's a bad spot for a multitude of these guys, but I think it's a worse spot for Jaden Daniels because of his play style. One, they have a shitty stadium, shitty field, and I do think, tough conference. I do think McLaurin and Jahan Dotson are players that work well with Jaden Daniels' play style, but I don't think that the offense and the overall team build is susceptible to his optimal success in the NFL.
The reason why Washington, to me, is going to be a tough landing spot for most of the quarterbacks that we talk about tonight, it's like, have you ever seen one of those gender reveal videos?
Yeah.
Right? The guy and a girl, they're doing golf or they're doing baseball, they're doing something, whatever, right? And they all of a sudden, the ball's struck and a pink dust comes out, and the guy looks devastated. That is a little bit of the vibe you're going to get with Washington if they don't get Caleb. They're setting up for Caleb. They're getting their hopes up for Caleb, and then they get anybody else. It's like that. Yeah. Of course I'm excited. Yeah, of course I'm so pumped. Yeah. It's disingenuous. It's not a genuine plan. It's not plan A. Let's call it that.
I don't mind it. Shout out to Anthony in the chat. He says he turned 43 on Super Bowl Sunday. So he didn't see the Kanye commercial either. And he says Usher's been killing for 25 as he has. Shout out to you, Anthony, for jumping in the chat. We appreciate all of you guys for jumping in here. If you click that like button, please click subscribe. Please tune in. Please tap in. Matty's got a couple of shows coming back. The Game Plan, Trade Gods coming back. Are they both coming back this week?
This week, baby. We're going to be a lot of Kiwoom on the Player Profiler feed this week. We got, of course, tonight, Tuesday night, the Hurdle, new to Player Profiler on Tuesday nights. Then we have tomorrow night, Trade Gods on Wednesday is going to be season 3, episode 1 premiere. And then Saturday, we got the Game Plan, season 3, episode 1 premiere with a very special guest.
All right. Quarterback number 2, Drake Maye. His current ADP is 2 to Washington. Haven't really seen him push into that number 1 spot much. I've seen him fall a couple times to the Atlantas of the world. We both have the same best landing spot. Mine's kind of similar to Jaden Daniels, where I just threw Atlanta in here because I think Atlanta, he's a pro's pro. He's got the potential to grow into a Herbert, grow into an Allen. He's got 15, 20 pounds to put on his body. He can run the football. He's got a big arm. He's a pro's pro, period. point blank. And I think Atlanta, I have on here 3 times for 3 different quarterbacks and they're the 3 best quarterbacks arguably in the class. But it's hard to not have Atlanta on this list with the group of talent that they have and their competent offensive line. What do you think about Atlanta?
That's my favorite landing spot for Drake Maye too. I talked about it on the latest episode of Blue Chips. You can go check that out. Or if you want to go check out my mock 2.0, I also had Drake Maye going 8 to the Falcons. Now in the blurb, you'll notice I think they have to trade up to get him, but that's neither here nor there. This to me is the best landing spot. I think it's the softest division defensively, so that helps him out. They have a fantastic offensive line. And weapons at all 3 levels, weapons at all, at 3 very, very important positions. And I think that going to the Atlanta, you need to be able to diagnose and go through your reads. And that seems to be something that Drake Maye, is being kind of praised on what he has done and what he's capable of doing when he gets to the next level. And that, leads to the checking down of Bijan or something short of the middle of the Kyle Pitts. It's also, I think, of this class, the best arm that's comparable to Matthew Stafford. And I think that now having Zach Robinson come over, he could dial up some things that not many quarterbacks can execute. Drake Maye is one of those quarterbacks that seemingly should be able to execute those plays.
All right, what's your worst landing spot for Drake Maye in the NFL?
It's the New York Football Giants. Terrible offensive line, no weapons, and a market that's so desperate for to get back to the glory days of the Eli Manning days, the Tom Coughlin days, that like even Tommy DeVito was able to be a star. They're going to put so much pressure on this first quarter if there's a quarterback that goes 6th overall, that I just don't think it's a recipe for success for a number of guys, and they're going to pop up on my list for the worst landing spot a couple more times here as we keep talking about the quarterback landing spots. But for me, Drake Maye going to the Giants with no weapons, 85 sacks allowed by that offensive line next year. And guys, girls, everybody, listen, they go Maye at 6 or trade up for Maye. Guess who they can't get there, Cody? The offensive lineman that they desperately need, the offensive weapon that they desperately need. So if somehow they could conjure up some way to pull off a Texans-esque maneuvering like they did last year, going 2-3 and maybe going 4-6, 3-6, however it goes, no, this is a horrible landing spot for Maye.
I don't see that happening whatsoever. So
no, how could it?
I'm gonna go chalk here to a Drake Maye, New England, the worst landing spot. Kind of obvious reasons. He wouldn't really have any weapons to throw to if he does go 3 here. Again, it's kind of the same situation with the Giants. They take him. They can't take other positions that they need. They do need a quarterback very bad, but they don't have any weapons to throw the football to other than DeMario Douglas, and he's about a strong 5'8". So
yeah.
I think the free agency is going to have something to tell us about what New England does and what Chicago does in this draft.
Minnesota.
Of course, Chicago kind of has the bull by the horns with the trading situation, with having the number 1 pick and potentially getting to trade a player away. Interesting thought on the Bears, as I just tell you, my chalk pick is Drake Maye going to New England as far as the worst pick. But interesting thought here is I was listening to a pod the other day with Rick Spielman, and he was on the First Draft show with CBS, and he was talking about Justin Fields getting traded from Chicago. He was asked the question. He did not say this unpromptedly. He was asked the question, will the Bears give away Fields for a 2 and a 4? And he said, they'll get more than that. So that was Spielman's response to Ryan Wilson. Ryan Wilson said, will the Bears get a 2 and a 4 for Fields? And he said, they'll get more than that. So that just kind of gives you an idea as a GM who was in there 2 years ago, what he thinks about the trade market for Justin Fields right now. 2 and a 4
could be a 2 and a 3. Like it might not be like, I don't see them getting around 1. I just don't.
I don't either. But maybe it's multiple 2s. That's still a lot of it's a big price tag. But let's go to JJ McCarthy here quick. We are 20 minutes in already through 2 quarterbacks. Hurdle speed. Not going to set any records in the 30-minute hurdle here.
You got a lot to say.
JJ McCarthy, quarterback, Michigan, hyper prolific in the accuracy department and the winning department. 2 major keys Let's start out with the worst landing spots. What's the worst landing spot for JJ McCarthy for fantasy football?
Denver Broncos. The expectation will be high. There won't be any flexibility on his start time. It'll pretty much be from jump. And we've seen Sean Payton, start to turn things around, but then they let go Russell Wilson. Rumors are they might trade Judy or Sutton. The weapons, we don't know what they'll be. I just feel like for this particular prospect, going to a team without weapons and having to start from day one does not help us in fantasy as much as we want when we're taking a quarterback, in whether it be one QB late or early in Superflex.
Denver's a tough spot. I think there's a couple guys that fit Denver's scheme and abilities, and I think there's a couple guys that really, I don't think, raise the roof. My worst landing spot for JJ McCarthy is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh feels like they're already out on the Pickett train, as they should be. They released Mitchell Trubisky, and they're in the rumor mill for Ryan Tannehill. Feels like a messy situation for McCarthy to get himself into. He feels like he's moving up and up and up in these mocks. Like we talked about this for the Senior Bowl, he's likely to get pushed into the top 20 just because he didn't go to Mobile. Pittsburgh's at 20.
Yeah.
If he falls to them at 20, that's the conversation. Kind of the same spot they took Pickett. I think Pickett was 20.
It was 20. It's 20 or 21. He's right there.
And I think McCarthy can do more than Pickett can do, but I don't trust. I trust Tomlin. I don't trust this whole situation with receivers leaving. Again, they're going to continue to draft guys, but receivers leaving over the course of the next 2 years. Arthur Smith is there, and they still have Pickett under contract. And if they go get Tannehill, feels disgusting, but I could see them getting signing Tannehill or trading for Tannehill, whatever, and then drafting some shit like this. I would just, throw up in my mouth. A better landing spot I would go to is New Orleans. I like the New Orleans landing spot. We had a little interaction today on Twitter because Jameis Winston was seen on a video in New Orleans. He loves the town. You and I were down there in New Orleans, and we caught a taxi or we caught an Uber to the stadium to watch a Thursday night football game. And this Uber driver, I think you asked him the question. I think you laid it up to him, and you were like, what do you guys think about Derek Carr? And he's like, man, fuck that. And it was just like he went off on Derek Carr because they hated him. He's like, the city wants Jameis. We want Jameis. So what I'm thinking is, hypothetically, if they traded a Derek Carr this spring, it's just Jameis. And then you get a JJ McCarthy there. And I don't know if McCarthy plays year one, but, they roll with Winston. This is all hypothetical. And McCarthy takes over in due time. I like that situation. I like the talent that's there in that offense. I think they're not really in like a rebuild, but they're in like a little remodel. And I think McCarthy is a guy that fits into that offense. What say you?
So Bucky Brooks said this on First Movers, his show with DJ, and he mocked JJ McCarthy to the Rams. And he used this quote, and I will use it for the rest of my life because it's that good. They're going to go grocery shopping before they're hungry. And I think that this is the perfect spot for a guy like McCarthy to go a winner, an accurate player, a smart player. You give him a chance to learn from Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay for a year, maybe more. I think that is where he could come, hit the ground running and really, really kind of get to that potential. Now, I do want to say about McCarthy's skill set. I like the player. I think he has a lot of potential. Just because he had the reins pulled in at Michigan does not mean that he's not capable of big, big things. We're talking about a 5-star recruit out of Illinois, one of the highest rated recruits in that state's history. Going to a team like the Rams and learning from two greats, perfect scenario.
Michael Penix. We both have the worst landing spot as the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Now my thoughts here are him going 39th overall, or they traded up to 35 or 33, 34, whatever, in that range and get him. Are you thinking Giants maybe trade down from 6 and take him somewhere in the teens, or are you kind of looking at that second round pick as well?
Bro, I was looking at the second round pick. I think that
Okay.
they're in their prime spot. They also have 2 second-round picks, if I'm not mistaken, which allows them to kind of get a little crazy if they so choose.
Yeah, I absolutely hate the New York Giants. It's the same for Spencer Rattler, the next player on this list. You have the Giants as well for Spencer Rattler, and I think that their answer is probably going to be similar. I would assume is that this team needs a lot more than just a quarterback. It'd be different if this team, hadn't given up 367 sacks last year, and they had an alpha receiver, and they didn't have a running back that they pissed off departing, and they had a top 10 defense. I think we'd be having a different conversation. Like, oh, maybe this is a generational class, and we can take one of these guys that's going to upgrade our quarterback position over Daniel Jones and reset the quarterback contract. That's not the case. So even in the second round, I don't feel good about the Giants taking a quarterback. My worst spot for Penix was the Giants. For Rattler, as I just mentioned, you had the Giants. I had Tampa. Baker's there. I just think that situation would not enhance Spencer Rattler's career. That's Tampa. It's in Florida. It's a fun place to be. And Mike Evans is likely departing. Godwin's feels like he's a nip slip away from getting his shoe kicked and floor and running out. He's gone. Nobody's going to be left. Yeah. And he's going to be throwing the ball to Trey Palmer. I love Trey Palmer, but that's not inducive to fantasy points. So I put Rattler there. Best landing spot for Michael Penix. I already talked about this Minnesota landing spot earlier with Jaden Daniels. I love Minnesota for Michael Penix. Obvious reasons. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. The offense is built. Where do you like Michael Penix the best for fantasy football?
Definitely Minnesota's a great spot, but I tried to go a little different here, and I went Michael Penix going to the Seattle Seahawks. Keep him in state, keep him with his offensive coordinator, give him 3 legitimate weapons and a running game, a decent offensive line. It's tailor-made for success, him going there. And I think a lot of the times the mental of these kids matters when it comes to success. And certain landing spots ignite certain things in certain players, and I think Seattle and Penix is going to be one of those things that I think he can be comfortable, he can hit the ground running, and be the best for his career.
What? See, I put, honestly, for one of the next players we're going to talk about here, I put Bo Nix, one of the worst landing spots for Bo Nix, I thought was Seattle. And I didn't expect, because we've talked about the situations for Bo Nix to succeed is he needs to be in a spot where he can succeed year one and stay hot and continue on this trajectory with a good coaching staff. With a defensive coaching staff going to Seattle, I don't love it for a quarterback that doesn't have to sit. If it was, Rattler in round 2, if it was McCarthy, if they traded down from 16 to like 25, McCarthy's there 25, I'd be okay with it in Seattle for a guy to sit behind Geno. But Penix and Nix, I can't get there on the Seahawks personally.
I agree with Nix. I don't with Penix because the offense is going to be tailored around the offense he just was successful in. I know there'll be an overall mentality of grind them out, keep it short, run game. Mike McDonald from the Ravens, he was also on the Michigan staff, so we know what type of brand of football those franchises and that college likes to play. But I still think that with the weapons, the play action will be there for Penix, and I just think that in this type of fan base where they already love him, they'll just continue to love him. It's just an easy transition. Sometimes these kids get caught up in the tidal wave of negativity and pressure, and I think with guys like Nix and Penix, that is such a factor to me. Probably the rest of the guys on this list too, but with Rattler, the Seahawks, specifically him, makes sense.
You just said Rattler, but I think you meant Penix. Rattler.
That's correct. That's correct.
The Rams are my favorite landing spot for Rattler. Fool me once on Stetson Bennett. Shame on me. Fool me twice. You're not going to fool me twice. Take Spencer Rattler here. I just altered that quote. Spencer Rattler to the Rams behind Matthew Stafford for 1 year, and he just fits right in. I love him in that offense. I love him in that scheme. I think McVay's a guy that can keep his keep him dialed in. I'm not worried about him. I think he's grown the last couple of years to the point where he's self-sufficient. there's always going to be haters talking down about Spencer Rattler because of QB1 and freshman year. All this shit doesn't matter. This guy's grown. This is life. Rattler's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I like him in the Rams. I like him sitting behind Stafford. I like him going, not at 52. 52 is probably a good spot, to be honest with you. I was going to say maybe they trade down, but 52 is probably a fine spot in round 2. You have an interesting one here for Spencer Rattler. What's your favorite landing spot for fantasy football?
Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that without the pressure of starting right away is massive for a guy like Rattler. I also think he's, and this is probably going to make a lot of people upset and make them confused, but follow me here. I think Rattler is very similar to the type of player that a Desmond Ridder was, but a lot better with a lot more potential. And I think you put that with Arthur Smith. The running game's there. You have both running backs that they could use or pass catchers. Freiermuth, like you got a lot of weapons there. And I just think that a kid like Rattler, who has gone through the adversity that you spoke about, the highs and lows of fandom and stardom and all that stuff, going to a hard-nosed franchise with a hard-nosed fan base with just love from jump, because he's not going to be expected to be the franchise savior. He's not going in the first round. He might not even go in the second round. Could be there for them in the third round. He could kind of just creep in, beat Rudolph, continue to play better, play with Pickett. All of a sudden, the fans, the coaches, they're all salivating. They're all clamoring. They're all cheering for Rattler. And I think that's a very good atmosphere and offensive scheme for this type of player. Because I do think he's a little bit more limited than people give him expectations, or they expect him to. And people compare, this arm talent. I see it, but I think it's more like Baker Mayfield. I don't think it's necessarily like locked and loaded, like wheeling and dealing type. There's a reason why he hasn't been the baller that we thought he'd be out of high school. But I think the team like the Steelers can kind of nurture the player as much as the person, and that's going to be huge for a guy like Rattler.
I'm going to combine these last two guys as we finish up here. Bo Nix from Oregon and Caleb Williams from USC, 2 Pac-12 guys now going to the NFL, 2 completely different career trajectories. Bo Nix started out hot at Auburn, shit the bed, transferred to Oregon, took over. He's been pretty solid. Caleb Williams jumps to stardom at Oklahoma, transfers to USC, wins the Heisman. Now he's wearing dresses and painting his fingernails. Bo Nix, favorite landing spots. Bo Nix, I like Denver. I like Denver because I think he meshes with Sean Payton. I think this is the Sean Payton quarterback of the class. I think he fits the Drew Brees archetype, where he's not short. He's not short by any means. He's not the same size as Brees, but I think he fits the archetype mentally. His abilities to get the ball downfield. I think it all just dials directly into what Brees could do. And everyone always says, Sean Payton doesn't like rookie quarterbacks. Well, Bo Nix is a glorified not rookie quarterback. He's got the most career starts in college football history at the quarterback position. So he's a glorified not rookie. And then Caleb Williams, we talked about Atlanta already. If hypothetically Atlanta were able to get number 1 or 2, if potentially Maye or Jaden Daniels went 1, I think Caleb Williams would be fucking lethal in Atlanta. And I'm not going to say that very often. I'm not the biggest Caleb guy, but I think he would be lethal in Atlanta, as I do think most of these guys were. What do you think about these 2 quarterbacks?
So Bo Nix, my favorite landing spot is the Vikings. You've kind of highlighted why we like quarterbacks there, so I'm not going to get a whole lot into that. Just going to add that I love the coaching staff. I love Kevin O'Connor, KOC over there. Did I get his name wrong? I'm always, Kevin
O'Connell. You got it.
Kevin O'Connell. I thought so. Whatever. Either way, I love the coach. Love his ability to orchestrate an offense with a point guard like Nix. And I think what's important in this Vikings offense is the ability to throw to the running back. And we've seen Nix really highlight himself there. The worst landing spot, New England. I just think there'll be a lot of expectation to succeed with a player who has the numbers of a Bo Nix, and they're just, what are you going to do? He's going to have to be scrambling for his life. He's not athletic enough to survive that way. I think it would look a lot like Sam Howell, unfortunately, if he were to go to the Patriots. So I do not like that landing spot. And as far as Caleb, I have his worst landing spot being New because the pressure to come to New England and because through the aisles of time, the person who succeeds Brady will be the next one who wins after Brady. Mac Jones will be a trivia note, and Cam Newton will be an even more difficult trivia question. The next guy who succeeds here will be the one that's remembered following Brady. I don't think Caleb Williams has that to come here and play. I think that for all of his whatever you want to call him, crying into his mother's arms, his GQ shoot, opinions aside, I just live in New England. I listen to sports radio. The pressure that will build around him from day one to be Tom Brady, which is damn near impossible, is going to be too much. Horrible landing spot. And I think the best for Caleb Williams is the Washington Commanders. I don't know the guy, so I am just merely speaking off speculation, but I would guess that he's a very selfish person. It's just the decisions he's made throughout college and now as he leads into the draft has been very Caleb Williams centric. I don't know if there's really any evidence to suggest otherwise in the public eye. Maybe people who know the guy can tell me I'm a liar, which is totally fine. That makes sense. I don't know him, but he obviously wants to go to Washington. He's from DC. Cliff Kingsbury's there. And I think with a diva like this, if he does not go to his spot, you have no chance. At least if he goes to his spot, you got a chance. But I think that Caleb Williams has set himself up for failure. I think he has set himself up for failure. And he looks like he's one of the people that will blame everything around him and make it about him. And I am just going to say this about Caleb Williams. I'm just going to take this opportunity to say it since we're talking QBs. I'm going to make myself have the balls to drop him in my big board and drop him in my mocks because I don't believe he'll be successful in the NFL. I don't care what his talent shows me. I don't care what his abilities are. I do not believe he'll be successful in the NFL.
Got it out there. Got it out there. It's draft season. That's why we're here to talk about these prospects. My biggest takeaway from going through this exercise is Spencer Rattler. I feel really good about Spencer Rattler if he falls to the Rams. He will fall in round 2 because it makes sense to where he's going right now. But if he goes 52 or somewhere in the 60s to the Rams, if they move back, I will love me some Spencer Rattler. Is anybody you got a big takeaway right offhand after going through this exercise and talking to all these guys?
It's Drake Maye Because not only are we both labeling Falcons as desirable, like the most desirable landing spot, but Brugler, Lance Zierlein. Zierlein had him going to the Falcons. So now the big guys are kind of putting that out there, which tells me that there is some, where there's some smoke, there's certainly some fire. So I think that this is the one that as fantasy owners, is okay. We're cooking, baby.
That's it. That's the show. We appreciate you guys for tapping in on this beautiful Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow night on the Executives of Fantasy Football YouTube channel, the Hurdle episode 50. We're going to be going through our favorite 10 free agents in the draft in this year's 2024 free agency class for fantasy football. So the Mike Evanses, the Michael Pittmans, the DeAndre Swifts of the world. What's our top 10 going into the offseason? And maybe talk about a couple of landing spots. Seth Dewald's going to join us. Make sure you go follow Matty on X at Matty Kiwoom. Make sure you go follow me at Cody Carpentier. And one more thing is at the draft ranking on X. Go follow that as well. Little spicy action right there. I just got the YouTube channel dialed in. I just got the Twitter page dialed in. Been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. If you don't know, go over to patreon.com/executives and find out, or go to thedraftrankings.com and find out. We appreciate you guys. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Peace.